Hey there, friends. It's Bill MacDonald. Welcome to Crest Online Recorded Training, Part 3, Constructed Responses, Lesson number 2. Today we're going to be doing a combination of two different constructed type responses, one using last year's test for 6th through 10th grade, and what I've done for you is actually put it in an online format so that you can watch me do the video first, and then you can kind of take the practice test yourself and see kind of like what your students might see when they have two formats. One being the text entry of a word, a phrase, a number, or make sure, yeah, that was it, a text string of text with a number, a word, or a phrase. And because another constructed type response is pretty simple, we're also going to do the drop down menu where it's technically multiple choice, but instead of having A, B, C, D on the document, it basically has just a list of items to pick from, and your students will select the correct one. So uh, anytime that we only have 1 point that's being asked, I want you to think of Wonder Woman. Her first acronym is W as in wonder, and her second acronym is W as in woman, Wonder Woman. And so if you think she has two eyes, and we have to connect those two eyes, the idea, what's the main idea in the question, and what's the main idea in the answer. So basically, the red light is what is the question and what is the answer, singular, whenever it's only worth 1 point. And most of the time, the string of text, the number of the word or a phrase, or the drop down menus, what they call the inline choice, they're all in a line. You pick one and you get 1 point for that. So uh, first, what I want to do is show you using the sample questions that I've sent. So far, all of you in the Crest online training have received the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade sample questions of all the different types, the constructed type, the short answer, and the extended essay responses for reading. And as you notice, at the end of 3rd, 4th, and 5th, they give you some samples for revising and editing. And because of that, I want to take a look first at how easy it's going to be to do the drop down constructed responses. And once we've done that, for drop down, we'll do the text entry and combination of drop down in my online testing format that I found that was as close as possible to what your students will experience on the test. And then we'll go ahead and practice. I'm going to go ahead and give you some questions that are in sentence and paragraph form where we can practice the two types that we're going to be going through and over in this video and from our last one, the text entry, word, number, or phrase, or the drop down response where there's just one answer. So again, think of the red light. If we are using the monkeys that I sent you in your order, the first sentence that your kids are going to see is the question, and the second sentence which will be not an entire sentence, but we'll call it a smartie because we are either going to be entering Smarties or Dum Dums, the candies that you can buy at Dollar Tree. Smarties are sometimes whole sentences, but sometimes the Smartie is just one little candy in the sentence because when you open up that package of Smarties, there's usually like 20 in there, and they don't always need the entire sentence. They just need one Smartie, one little piece of the candy. So that's what we're going to do today by looking at the two easiest types of questions, and I checked them off for you for today and in the constructed responses. They're always going to be either worth 1 or 2 points, and in this case, we're going to look at the 1 point questions, and the ones from the editing and revising are in a drop down format that I've seen so far, but I did send a link to my Facebook page of all the different formats, and they do show some number, word, or phrase text. And it's sort of like a short answer, but it's an extremely short answer where the student writes the word or the phrase. And then, of course, because it's somewhat, you can't always get the exact word as what you think the student's going to put. It's good to see the answer that is the official answer, which is what I'll show you in the online test, and then what the student wrote so that you can see is there enough of the answer that's correct to give the student the point in this format. So we're going to be looking first at the drop-down menu using editing and revising from 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then we'll go into the 6th through 10th, and I chose one question from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th that only required a number, a word, or a phrase, either just as a drop-down format or a word or a phrase that would be entered. So let's take a look. And I've sent these all to you. So this is the 3rd grade one. And this is the drop down where your students are just going to pick one. Normally it would be A, B, C, D. And so there's 4 choices there. So they have to pick the one. And so revising is improving the content. It's worth 1 point. All revising and editing questions are going to be worth 1 point. That's what I was told from the director of reading. So I hope he doesn't change that on me and make a liar out of me. And so this one is let's improve the content by reading it in context to see what the choice would be. The word keeps is not the right choice for sentence 29. Select the word that should replace keeps in this sentence. Today, the Red Cross keeps the work that Clara Barton started. No, they're still doing the work. And so the best one for the context of the choices was continues. So your students would click the drop down menu. And so when I gave you your practice test, what I'll do is I'll separate that way you can have nothing but drop down menu practice questions in all subjects, and then we'll have nothing but word, number, or phrase in all subjects. And that way, I know that the majority, because of what you guys have emailed to me, are reading teachers, but I do want to touch a little bit on what your math teachers might see whenever they have to enter a word or a phrase, or your science teachers might see. So we'll try to help everybody here. My next one is 3rd grade, an editing question. Jeff has made an error in sentence 4. And normally when you see the word error, or the word change, you will think of the word cups, capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling. Then I noticed my neighbor, Sam, notice past tense, my neighbor Sam walking by with his father. And so the word that was there didn't make sense. And so when you go and look at the link that I sent you, the kid was walking by with his father. Um, what I did notice that the answer key, at least when I saw them, it wasn't the editing and revising was added later, and so what I was noticing that they weren't showing those answers. So I was having to just do my homework myself. Select the response that corrects the spelling error, so it automatically says it's a cups, capitalization, usage, punctuation, or spelling in sentence 9. And so I only have to look at sentence 9. I don't have to look at the entire um, passage or even an entire paragraph. So that's the cool thing about editing. You just look at the one sentence that they're asking you to look at. By the end of the day, that's a when, comma, by the end of the day. Because that phrase, that introductory phrase is 6 words, 4 words or longer, you typically put a comma to start with how, why, where, oh, when. You often put a comma then. To start with how, why, where, oh, when, you often put a comma then. And so since that's telling me when, and the phrase has 4 words or more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you would need that comma there because it's a long introductory phrase. I had a beautiful new tree and a new friend. Um, 2 things that we had. And so beautiful was spelled wrong. And so they asked the students to go ahead and pick the correct one. All right. So let's switch over to 4th grade. Drop down menu. Revising, improving the content. And again, it's the context. Julie wants to replace the word greatly in sentence 2. Select the best word for Julie to use in the sentence. Greatly. Children inside the tents talk blank about topics like slime, magic tricks, and pet daycare. Since the kids would be pretty happy to talk about those kind of topics, then how they would talk would need an ly. Greatly is not the correct context. It's more of an emotion here. So you're excited, and so you would talk excitedly. And so that would be the drop down that you choose for that one. And I'm skipping the ones that are not just the drop down word or phrase. The next one that we're going to look at is number 13 from 4th grade. Julie has not used an appropriate transition word when you move from one sentence to the next, or one idea to the next, one paragraph to the next, one paragraph to the next paragraph. At the beginning of sentence 29, select the last word, the word that should replace lastly in the sentence. Now there are action children's business fairs in cities across the country. So now that the passage is over and these kids have done lots of great things for the community, for the country, as you can see here, at the end result, meaning right now, that there's a lot of these fairs all over the country in different cities. And my last two, an error, keyword error that corrects the error, because that is a proper noun, because it's the name of a specific place, a specific canyon. Your students could say Capital Palo, Capital Duro, Capital Canyon, or Palo Duro Canyon. I was pretending to put on a cap, or you could do it verbally and kinesthetically. Capital Palo, Capital Duro, Capital Canyon, because that's the name of the place. All three words would have to be capitalized, not one of them or two of them. And I kind of on the fifth grade, I wanted to on the rest of them. I'll let you see the four choices so that you don't have to go in and look at them yourself. And I sometimes included the sentence before or the sentence after so you can make the proper connections. Again, this one, I went ahead and showed you there's no such word as comed in past tense. Today I come, yesterday I came. So whenever you went somewhere, you came there yesterday or you came there today. Tyler has made an error. Again, error. Select the response that corrects this error. At last, Pepper's clopping feet came to a stop. And so it wouldn't be comed, and because it is in past tense, when you look at the sentence before, you can check, is it past, present, or future? And his feet are plural, and so you have to make sure that the feet came to a stop. All right, our last one is going to be fifth grade. Again, drop down menu. We're just going to look for the ones that require a word, phrase, or a number. Revising, a transition word meaning the opposite. Claudia has not used an appropriate transition at the beginning of sentence two. Select the word that should replace likewise in the sentence. So what I did, and I kind of, so to keep you from having to go back into the passage, I went ahead and showed you what they have. Many students, that should have been students, I'll fix that, enjoy learning about science by doing math experiments in a lab. Okay, well, likewise is like a comparison, students to Nolan Elementary. Well, since Nolan Elementary does not have one, we would need something that means the opposite, which would be, in this case, capital unfortunately, comma. 11. Claudia wants to replace the word high because it's too vague and replace vague with more specific or one in context. In sentence 9, select the best word to use in the sentence. Many people may say that a science lab would be too high. And since they weren't talking about its vertical measurement, they were talking about the cost, the expense of making a science lab, we would use the word expensive if the expense would be too high. And so we have to be careful how we see it in context, because high would typically mean a measurement of how far something is up in the air, off the ground, off a table, etc. And two more. Um, There's three incorrect answers. Select the response that corrects this response. So it's written incorrectly. So you notice that the word error is not there. And so a lot of times when you see the word that it's written incorrectly, it doesn't say the word error. What I'm noticing is whenever it says needs a sentence needs to be changed, or that there's an error, then those are cups. but this would be a fragment because if you look at all of the choices with the book, I'm sorry, the first sentence, I wanted to transition so you could see what they were talking about. The book, comma, Poor Richard's Almanac, comma, telling you more about the book, which is allowed. You surround it with commas, was a collection of information and advice. Then you have to, which one gives more information about the book? With weather predictions, a calendar, and recipes. Since that would be a fragment, it sounds great when you put them together. The book, Poor Richard's Almanac, was a collection of information and advice with weather predictions, a calendar, and recipes. But you have to verbalize the capitalization and punctuation so you don't have that issue that happens here. Capital. The book, comma, Poor Richard apostrophe S Almanac, comma, was a collection of information and advice, period. Capital. It had weather predictions, comma, a calendar, comma, and recipes. What had? The book did. But if you say also weather predictions, that's a fragment. And had, that would be a fragment. Now, here's a little trick with the word and. If you can cover the word and at the beginning of a sentence, I learned this last year when they were throwing and at the beginning of sentences, and the thought, it has a complete thought, then it's okay to start a sentence with and. So let's just see how it works without the and. Had weather predictions, a calendar, and recipes. Since it didn't say it had, then I can't use that. But that is one way to test if it's okay to start a sentence with and. If you cover it and the sentence still makes sense as a complete thought, then you can keep it. All right. So let's take a look at our last one from the drop down samples before I gave you some with editing and revising from different levels. Milo has made an error. So again, error is there. So whenever it has change or error, then you're gonna have a clue, oh, that's probably usage, capitalization, usage, punctuation, or spelling. Select the response that corrects the error. However, people believed his book was more funny and more useful. Since we have uh, more and more, that would be repetitious, so I wouldn't want to use that. However, people believed his book was funnier and more useful than other books. So since here I'm not repeating RE or RE twice, I won't, I'm okay to select that one. This one has more and more again on the second choice. Third one. However, people believed his book was most funniest, two STs in a row. That breaks a grammar rule. And so remind your kids of the ER, RE, or ST, consecutive STs. It's either the funniest or it's the most. And since it's written together, we have to eliminate it. And because it's comparing uh, the comparative, not superlative, it wouldn't sound good if you put the superlative uh, adjective with a comparative adjective. So then it was funniest and more useful since, and again, that's an extreme, that's superlative. We don't put superlative with comparative. It was funnier, ER, and more, ER, useful than other books. So the best one was the word funnier. So that's how I would do that's using the samples that they gave you, so that I wanted you to see that, so that when I do the uh, drop down menus of a word, phrase, or numbers, or the string of text with or with a word, a phrase, or a number, you would kind of get to see what it would look like. So what I did next was I have taken one question from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, and in the email in the email below the link to this video that you're watching right now, I made a link to this practice test that allows you to practice text entry and drop down menu. And so what you'll notice there is a link code. So what you might do when you before you click on the link to this test right here, let me just show you real quick. It's right there. It's there. That's the link to it, but you don't need to see that. You just need to click on that link. Then you click the access code. It says Crest Part 3, which is the part we're in right now, text entry with no space. And again, the added benefit that we're going to be having is the drop down menu, because in both cases, there's just going to be a word, a phrase, or a number that you'll be having to worry about. So I'll click on it. Because the state has changed the rules starting even in December on the retesters in end of course 1 and 2. None of these tests that I give you here will be timed. So normally you might give your students a certain amount of time, but at least when I upload them, I won't be placing a time limit on you or your students. Now, in case you somehow get locked out, I would type in that return code AB3E-H2EJ, all capital letters on the letters, and that way you can do it. So let me go ahead and show you again from 6th through 10th grade. What does either a what is a drop down gonna look like, or a word, phrase, or a number? What's it going to look like using this past year's test as a guide? And so I'm going to look at it was question number 24 from the 6th grade test from the passage A Modern Day Treasure Hunt. Says use a modern day treasure hunt to answer the following question. Okay, and so since now I'm on the online, I'll use my annotations. The word cryptic has a Latin root that means hidden. And so what they decided to do for your students was to give them a clue about what the word means. And so you have to keep that in mind when you're picking your choice based on the information. The word cryptic, here I put it in quotation marks. It wasn't letting me make it bold, so I went ahead and put it in quotation marks in the passage so you could find it faster. Means blank, as it is used in paragraph 5 of the selection A Modern Day Treasure Hunt. So I would go ahead and you look at the whole sentence. In a poem published in his memoir, The Thrill of the Chase, Fenn gives a cryptic message as to where the Bibles can be found. Treasure hunters have carefully studied the poem, which has lines such as begin it where warm waters halt, and not far but too far to walk, in hopes of solving the puzzle. So a cryptic message, they're trying to solve the puzzle, but because of the clue they gave here, the Latin word hidden is your clue, and so a hidden message. So the message is not right out there where you can see it. So if we look at the answer choices, an artistic message. And artistic comes from the root word art, and these were the choices. These were actually A, B, C, D on the test. So I wanted you to see what it looked like in a drop-down menu on a test. Based on the information, the word cryptic means lengthy, so a long message. Hidden and long are not synonyms of each other, so I don't think that would be the best choice. Unclear means it's not obvious. So, and not obvious message. So if they gave you a message, but it's not very clear. In other words, if I put dirt on my glasses, it will make my vision unclear. So that could be an answer. But let's look at our next one. Based on the information, the word cryptic means unusual message. Since unusual and hidden are not as close in meaning as unclear and hidden, I'm thinking that the best answer choice is for that, and I would click next. And this next one is from Time for a Digital Diet. It's an informative passage about kids who are spending too much time on their phones. And it was question number 1. And this one, a word, a phrase, and so that it wouldn't mark it wrong. What I don't like about some programs, if you don't have the exact words, then it marks it wrong. And so what I went ahead and did is I left it sort of open-ended so that you can match what the student wrote to what you think is the best answer. And I did write the answer in the what you'll see at the end when you download the test results. You can compare and print out the test results to see how close the student's answer matches what you chose on this format. So let's see what the question says. Okay. What is the most likely reason? I'm gonna go ahead and use uh, my pencil to follow myself. What is the most likely reason that the author includes the cartoon? Okay. And I believe that I had a cartoon, and um, let me pause the video just for a second. Okay, I'm back. What I did on the first draft of this, like I said, when I was typing these questions out, I didn't really like that it was trying to mark the answer wrong if the student's response was not exactly the same. So my version that I'm going to send you will have the picture, but because it doesn't have the picture on this one, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you with my document camera. That way you can see what the students saw. And here it is right here. And so that's what you'll see in the version that I'll send you. There's a bunch of kids, and if you look closely, every single kid is standing at a different location on what looks like a playground. Okay. It doesn't make it clear if the playground is at a school or at a park. It just shows that there's kids who, on a playground, where on their phones, what? Every single one of them are just staring and looking at their screens. Some of them are reading, some of them might be typing. So that's the picture that you'll see in the test version that I'll update for you to make sure that's there. So I'll share the portion of the screen again. So the question was, what is the most likely reason the author includes the cartoon? Well, sometimes we have to connect a picture, which just so you can see the picture. Let me kind of give you an idea here. There was a paragraph 7, and then there was that picture of all of those kids uh, standing at a playground looking at their phones. And so the question said, what is the most likely reason the author includes the cartoon? Well, if I look at paragraph 7, it kind of gives me a clue. Forming healthier digital habits is possible without having to give up technology completely. And so the technology example in the picture is your cell phone. Going on a digital diet may not be easy, but it is worth it. Limiting the amount of time spent using digital devices helps us live a more balanced life. And so, what is the most likely reason the author includes this cartoon? Because I would need an answer based on the picture, I would probably say something like, um, he feels that students spend, not students, because I don't even know if it's a student, that kids spend too much time on their phones. Okay, that's my answer. And so, why did I say too much time? Because based on that last paragraph, you can see that he's trying to encourage the reader, in this case, kids, to not spend so much time using digital devices. And so, since the specific digital device that was being used was a phone, uh, based on that picture, he's doing an extreme of saying probably too many kids spend too much time on their phones. All right. Next one, clear the drawings. 8th grade, this came from question number 1, and all it needed was what a word meant. And so uh, as you can see here, there's no answer there. So your students will have to type a word. And so to make sure that they get it clear, it says type the word definition, because these are 4 definitions and the number. So they have to type the word definition and one of these 4 numbers. Which definition of the word hassle above is used in paragraph 7? So this came from a passage called The Need for High-Speed Internet, high-speed trains. Uh, it's the 8th grade, question number 1, and looking for the word hassle. There it is. All right. So I always suggest, if you can't read the entire passage, you scan it and maybe read the sentence before if you struggle with reading. A person using a high-speed train for daily travel could save thousands of dollars over time. That person could avoid the hassle. I'm going to find out if I'm avoiding a hassle. A hassle is either a positive or a negative thing. Let's see what hassle means. Finding and paying for parking space in a crowded city. Um, Finding a parking space, that's not a good thing. Having to pay for a parking space, that's a bad thing. And in a crowded city, that's a negative thing. So a hassle is something that probably I don't enjoy. Additionally, those who used to drive by car could be able to spend less money. But we're talking about the hassle, the negative connotation of finding and paying for a parking space in a crowded city. So three little pieces of the sentence that will help us. So is a hassle an argument? I don't think that we're talking to anybody inside um, this answer choice. Is it a state of confusion? To avoid the confusion of finding and paying for a parking space. That could be an answer that students would pick. A debate, getting into a fight or a controversy. Since debate is an argument, and since a synonym of argument, a controversy is a fight. Since that's too similar to number one, I'm automatically going to eliminate definitions 1 and 3. An inconvenient problem. Convenient means it's something that helps you. Inconvenient is something that doesn't help you. It doesn't help you to have to find and pay for a parking space in a crowded city. So between the two, confusion, I don't have any details that make me appear confused, like I'm lost or I'm wondering. It just is a negative thing, a problem in that city. So what does it say? Type the word definition. Definition and the number for your answer. I'm going to probably choose number 4. Then I will scroll down to next. Number 4 is end of course number 1. This is a revising passage. And again, you can either have drop down or you can have a keyword. And again, to make sure that your students don't make a mistake and get it wrong, I kind of give them the clue, type the word sentence because it's one of these sentences, and the number, the sentence number. Which sentence in the third paragraph, sentences 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and if I added another finger, 12, is extraneous and should be deleted. In other words, there's a song that goes, one of these things just doesn't belong here. And so what they're trying to figure out is which one doesn't really fit in with the other ones based on the context. Okay. Over the years, as scientists studied the mammoths, they uncovered more information that altered their initial theories. And so basically my topic sentence, my main idea is that um, there's going to be information that alters the theories. This happens often due to new discoveries or additional data that leads to new theories. So theories making new theories. Okay. To me, that kind of seems redundant um, and repetitious. So that's kind of a red flag that I might want to eliminate sentence 8. Let me look at sentence 9. One initial theory, information that altered their initial theory. One issue was that the mammoth herd was trapped in a ravine and drowned in a flash flood. So what they're saying is they changed, altered means changed, and then they said, well, let's give an example. Since number 8 stays vague and just says other theories or other data, and number 9, sentence 9, gives an actual example of being trapped and drowning in a flash flood, I'm going to stay with 9 and eliminate 8. So 8 so far. Because they were so large, the mammoths would have struggled to climb out of the ravine in time. Since that's adding details to sentence 9, ravine and ravine, they would go together because it would be a cause and effect relationship. They're trapped in the ravine. They would have struggled to climb out because of their size. 11. That would have made it hard to survive the sudden flooding. So again, it has a cause and effect relationship here. So 11 can't be eliminated. 12 is the last one. However, as the scientists studied the fossils over several years, researchers discovered that the growth patterns on the bones appeared stunted, as though the animals did not have sufficient nutrition. So what they added here was a sentence that gives another example. And if I was to pick the answer, it's going to come down to either number 12, coming up with a different theory, possibly, or number eight, the reason that scientists alter their theories. So we have to think which one would be the best. So if we're trying to pick between the two sentences, they uncovered more information that altered their initial theories. That's our topic sentence, our main idea. This happens often due to new discoveries or additional data that led to new theories. And your other choice is going to be, however, as the scientists studied the fossils over several years, the researchers discovered that the growth patterns on the bones appeared stunted, as though they did not have enough sufficient nutrition. So, because the topic sentence talks about altering the initial theory, this sentence 12 would be an example of how the theory changed because, well, if one example says they're so large, they would get trapped in ravines and drown in floods. And the other one says there wasn't enough nutrition, so it's possible that they just died, their bones appeared stunted. And so the idea I'm guessing here is that you might die of starvation, and not because you were stuck in a ravine being so large. And so since uh, sentence 12 kind of supports the idea of a different theory, and sentence 8, this happens often now due to discovery of additional data that leads to new theories because it's um, kind of redundant, I believe. I'm going to have to say that sentence, and it does say, uh, and I'm hoping that it doesn't have to be capitalized. We'll find out when it gives me the grade at the end. I'm going to say that sentence 8 should be deleted. And then we finally have our last one. This is from 10th grade, question number 12 in editing. Again, for those of you that are doing revising and editing, your first 9 questions for end of course for this December, 9 questions. Your first 9 will be revising and your second 9 will be editing. So I have the whole passage, but I just want you to know that what you don't need to do is read on editing. You don't need to read entire passages, and you don't even read entire paragraphs. On the old star, they didn't use the word error, as you can see down here. They didn't use the word error, they used the word change. And so change and our new word error usually means cups, which means it would be a mistake of capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling. And so what we're wanting to look at is sentence 27. And so because your kids are allowed to highlight, I would suggest that you have them highlight just the sentence that's being asked about right here. Capital, the diversity of environments, apostrophe. So that's plural apostrophe. Now, right away when I look at that, what I want you to tell your kids to do is to draw a wall after the word and check and see, can I own the next word? Can you possess the word on? And since that can't be possessed, that's going to be my first red flag that I think I need to take out that apostrophe or that contraction on environments. On Earth, because that's the name of my planet, presents design challenges that have put gone or GAN and the other engineers to the test, period. So in punctuation, whenever you have a plural possessive, you have to be able to own the next word. So my answer is going to be something to the effect of remove the apostrophe after environments, period. Okay. And you might want to not want to be too mean or too strict, but hopefully if they're going to be answering because we need a word or a phrase, I don't necessarily need a whole sentence because we're just practicing the words, the phrases, and the numbers. So if all your kids had was apostrophe after environments, that would be a phrase. And you would understand, they could also write apostrophe, apostrophe, sorry, they could write environments instead of environments apostrophe S. So that would be my answer choice that I would choose for that one. I'll go ahead and clear my drawings. I have answered all of my questions. So are you sure? Yes. And let's download. And that way you can kind of see what we'll see. And it does have the option to print on these tests. And so there's number 1. It was correct. And see number 2. He feels that kids spend too much time on their phones was the uh, answer that I wrote to suggest that children are attached to phones, are too attached to phones. Since those two answers are pretty much the same thing, I'm going to give credit for that. Number three, definition four is correct. And again, so that we don't have an issue, we did tell them to type the word definition and the number because I don't want kids getting answers wrong just because they don't have the exact words. Too many programs that I tried out were making it be exact. So now I've got 4 out of 5. Number four, got it correct. And so I want you to notice lowercase sentence 8, correct answer sentence 8. It did give me credit, um, even though it wasn't capitalized. Sentence 8 was the one that was sort of redundant. And our last one said to remove the apostrophe after environments and delete the apostrophe after. Since that is the same thing, then since my answers are similar, then I would say that I got the 100 that I was hoping for. And I don't know if you can see it, but it does have a print option where the kids could print out their test for you. And so what I'll be doing is I'll be making, as I mentioned, I'll be making a little practice test in drop down menus and uh, words, phrases, or numbers in all subjects and grade levels for my next video that's part of the Crest training. But the next one that you're going to probably see, I wanted to kind of work through the 5th grade test, the different samples so that you can see basically what is it that they look like in an online format for all the constructed, for reading, for editing, revising, the short answer for reading, and the extended essay responses for reading, so that you can kind of see what is all this going to look like. And for those of you who have been asking, I'm going to continue to go ahead and post in one place the rest. I've done 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade so far of the sample questions, but so that you don't have to be going back and forth, I'll be posting the 6th through 10th grade sample test questions, and I'll again be showing you more of the answer choices so that you can kind of know what it was that your students had to pick from. So hopefully this was helpful to you. God bless. See you next time when we look at our 5th grade uh, test samples to kind of see all the different types and how they connect to our writing folder.